Welcome back to the Stephen Knight Show. Thank you for joining us again tonight. We have a show full of the latest hot topics everyone is talking about. Then Linnea is joining us in our movie review segment to talk about her movie Providence, which you know is doing amazing things. We'll talk about that later on in the show. But want to remind you all over social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and of course our official website, thestephenknightshow.com. Rather watch us go on our YouTube channel, Stephen Knight Show. And we do have merch at our website, the Stephen Knight Show, so check that out. Again, this is Hispanic Heritage Month. It runs from September 15th to October 15th. And again, it's where we recognize the Hispanic and Latino community's achievements and culture and contributions to this nation's history. It's also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So make sure everyone's doing what they need to do to stay healthy. I saw a video today where this woman, she had her yearly physical, everything checked out. Then a few days later, she discovered a lump. Went to her doctor. The doctor said, it's nothing. You're young. Don't worry about it. But she felt adamant about there's something wrong with me. She had to force him to send her to get a mastectomy. Not mastectomy. What's called a, what's the scan?
Biopsy?
The scan.
Or mammogram.
Mammogram, and turned out to be cancer. So make sure you're advocating for your own health. And also make sure you register to vote. These are important things you need to do, for sure. Chike, Linnea, how are y'all feeling on this Monday?
Oh, just delightful.
Muy bien, too.
I love the shirt.
Hispanic heritage. I'm muy bien. ¿Y tú?
CCC.
Okay. All right. So as a medical professional, I just want to add on to what you said. Get first, second, and third opinions. Do not take the word if you don't trust it the first time. If you don't have that solid relationship with your doctor, will you implicitly trust what they say? First, second, and third opinions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, I went to a dermatologist the other day. I felt, you hear people say they go to their medical professionals and they feel unheard. I felt unheard. I won't say who it was, but they were telling me all the reasons why I'm having the issues I was having. And I was like, does not make sense in any way, But anyway, so again, get second, third opinions if you need to, for sure. All right, so y'all doing good. Our question of the day is, what is the shortest time you have ever worked on a job? I'll start with you, Linnea.
The one that comes to mind would be, I did a year at a treatment center, and I was like, yeah, no, this is
This ain't it.
This ain't it. And I mean, this was a drug and alcohol center. Something completely new for me.
Yeah.
And I had a Karen, and that Karen went and searched me online.
See?
And found one of my movies where like it looks like I'm cutting up drugs or whatever, and went back and said I was online cutting up cocaine on YouTube.
Oh no. Oh no. Yeah. Not a good look. Not a good look.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Chike, what's the longest you stayed on the job?
The longest or the shortest?
I mean, shortest.
That would be probably up until lunch. I left for lunch and I didn't come back.
Yeah.
I think I know what job it was.
You probably wouldn't know.
No, this is before I met you. This is before, life was lifing the way life lifes,
Right.
When the bills weren't billing like they bill.
Yeah. No, I had a day. I did a day. Again, this was in my early 20s. One of my friends was doing a newspaper route. You should do this. It's good money. Good money. And I said, okay, before you sign up, though, go on a route with me. Yeah, that one route, that one day, I knew it wasn't for me. It wasn't my ministry. And that was I got chased by a rabbit, by a dog. I was like, I don't need this at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Not Bugs Bunny, though.
How you chased by a rabbit? Like what?
Because usually rabbits, you think they would run from you, right? If they see you.
No, jackrabbits are aggressive.
This one chased me. This is downtown Richmond. GK, you know the area very well. Richmond, Virginia. Yeah. So I don't know what was in that rabbit's blood, but it was
That
after.
hood rabbit.
Yeah, hood rabbit, right. Well, tweet us at home and let it. Well, do you say X? Go on X and tweet us at home and let us know what's the shortest time you ever worked at a job. Stephen Knight Show, SHO. All right, so I have to tell you all, I went to Beyonce, the last show of her tour last night. I was in Kansas City. I just got back today. And I went for a little bit more than 24 hours. I didn't expect to go on this tour. You know, obviously we've heard about it all summer, but I got a cheap ticket. One of my friends who had been several shows, and I was like, okay, I'll go. This is the last show. It was a makeup show because our last show was in New Orleans, but this is a makeup show in Kansas City. And so, real quick about my experience, get there. You know, we saw the outfits online. They don't disappoint. People had some of everything on, but it was good seeing Black, white, Hispanic, whatever, all dressed up, all showing their love for Beyonce in their outfits. Get there. The only downside of it all was we had to wait over 2 hours for her to come out. And you know, again, I've been with someone. I was there with someone who had been to different shows, so they knew when she was coming out. And so we all, okay, this is it. Well, this was it. Happened about 5-10 times, and she didn't come out, right? But and even Twitter, they were tweeting. So at one point, they were playing like spa type music, and someone tweeted, "If I'm asleep when she comes out, it's on her. It's on her because you can only listen to spa music for so long." But anyway, once she came out, all was forgiven. She killed it from the moment she stepped on the stage to the moment she left. It was very entertaining. It was well produced. The visuals were amazing. She looked great. She sounded amazing. Her dancers were amazing. Her band was amazing. She had background singers who had a little spotlight. They were amazing. It was just great show. There were some highlights. Cardi B was there. I didn't see her, but at one point you hear it, the audience just go off on one section. I guess when she came in, but she was there. They did the mute challenge, and we had the longest mute. This is the longest she held the mute. And she said we won, but Black Twitter said we didn't. They said we didn't know what we were doing. But that was that. And at one point, she's performing, and there's this loud applause. I'm thinking, what happened? What I miss? And that's when Blue Ivy hit the stage, and she did her thing. She got a standing ovation, and she became emotional at the end of Gets to the last show, and everybody was applauding her, and she got a little emotional on stage. But it was a great show. She started off with ballads when she came out. Then she went into her new album, and then she went into some other songs from other albums. And then she would go back to her current album throughout the show. But it was a great show. It was probably one of the best shows I've ever seen. Even though I'm not a huge Beyonce fan, it's just one of those shows you walk away like, okay, yeah, this is why she is who she is. But they kept saying there was this huge announcement she was going to make. And so after the 56th show of her world tour, she announced that she's bringing the Renaissance experience to theaters for forthcoming film. And this is going to be on December 1st. Again, she announced it last night in Kansas City. Now, she left viewers with a 2-minute video, a trailer for the show. And at some point, she says the goal of this tour is to create a place where everyone is free and no one is judged. And then she said at any point, you could close your eyes and be right back and take it with them. Talking about when you see these visuals. A lot of people are saying, Taylor Swift, I don't like the comparison. I mean, I haven't seen Taylor Swift show and I heard it's great. But I think that if you go to a Taylor Swift show and you go to Beyonce show, you're getting completely different shows. But, she was already, hers is already going to theater, and Beyonce now is going to theater. What do you think about this, her taking this for the holidays, December 1st? I'll start with you, Linnea, taking this, the behind the scenes and actual show to theaters.
Cha-ching.
Yeah, exactly.
Capitalize, mama, capitalize, capitalize.
Yeah.
And if I'm correct, and I could be wrong, her tour created like 4.5 billion in revenue.
Yeah.
Just the tour. We ain't even talking about what's getting ready to happen with this movie. Just the tour.
Yeah.
I know I wasn't going.
Yeah.
I got no money. But I am so happy for her.
Yeah.
Being like, I saw her ending. I'm assuming what I saw was her ending. Did she have an all black Steven at the end of the show?
Yeah. We're not, I don't know if the end of the show. Well, okay. So I left this right before she came right back out finale because traffic was horrible. So we said, if we leave now, but I could hear it. But she did have on black at one point.
Okay, so I saw it, and
the glasses.
I was about to cry. No, she didn't have glasses on, so this might have been something else.
This might have been a day. Okay.
This might have, maybe it was New Orleans, but she was, she's like, I'm at the end of this, and I'm, like I'm 42 years old, and y'all out for me, and like I was about to cry. I was like, oh,
yeah,
Beyonce. Wait a minute now. So
I'm glad you said that, because one thing she did say when she came out, she said, at this age, I can fully be present where I am today. And today I am with you all here. I'm with you. So hopefully your energy and my energy, we will feed off each other the whole show. She did say that in the show.
Good for her. Get that money, boo.
Yeah. Chicken, what are your thoughts on this?
Black girl magic. Go Beyonce. Make that money. But I have to say, being 1,000 years old that I am, I remember the phenomenon of Madonna doing this with Truth or Dare. And that made, that was a big thing to do because at that time that was unheard of. Nobody's ever did that before. And so shout out to Madge for paving the way for people to be able to capitalize off their tours again and again and again. Because I think that this movie is going to be a movement because she's going to make money all over again from the thing that she already did. And I think it's a perfect time capsule for the period in which we're in, and that will live forever for other generations to go watch. And I urge you, if you're young, you're a fan of Beyonce, go back in time and check out Madonna's Truth or Dare. Check that out.
Absolutely. And the seats I was in, I was at the highest of it all. The stadium.
Call them what they are. Nosebleed. Call them.
Nosebleed seats. But for this show, and this is what I was told, this is the best seats to be in for that show, especially if you're in the front, because it's a full light show. It's the visual. I mean, if you're up front, you really can't really see your front row because the stage is high. So you're looking at the monitors anyway. And so I was able to see down. I could see the audience. I could see everything on stage. She made it for people who can't go up front. You know what I mean? Because of the monitors. They were huge and you could see everything. And the sound system was top tier. You heard everything. But anyway, I have to say, just from a production side, because I know for me, just obviously I'm nowhere on that level, but performing, the worst thing is when your sound is not right. But this sound was top tier. And everyone sounded great. I don't care if you were a musician, if you were one of the background singers, everyone just sounded great because of the money that was put into it. So shout out to Beyonce. All right, well, switching gears. So Dwayne Davis was reportedly under arrest in connection for killing of Tupac Shakur. Las Vegas police arrested him on Friday, 27 years after the hip-hop artist was shot and killed on the city strip. AP broke the news, citing that two officials with first-hand knowledge of the arrest who are not authorized to speak publicly. Now, Davis reportedly has an indictment scheduled for Friday. According to the outlet, Davis' connection to Tupac Shakur's death is well documented. He reportedly refers to himself as one of the last living witnesses to the shooting of Tupac. Now, in the Common Street Legend memoir, Dwayne admitted he told federal and local investigation in 2010 that he had witnessed the killing and provided the gun. He claimed that he was seated in the passenger seat while his nephew, Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, was in the back seat with DeAndre Dre Smith and Terrence T. Brown was allegedly the driver of the Cadillac. AP reports that Anderson denied Dwayne's claims and was shot to death 2 years later. His memoir came out in 2019, but in 2018, he also admitted to being in the Cadillac in a BET interview. Now, as we all know, Tupac died in the hospital a week after the shooting, September 7, 1996. Pac was seated in the passenger side of the BMW, driven by Suge Knight. Tupac and Knight were at a stoplight when the gunshots were fired from the Cadillac. So pretty much this man has gone on multiple interviews with Vibe magazine, BET, and he has pretty much said that he was there, which allowed detectives to put their focus on him. If you remember, they raided his wife's home in July of early this year, and they got documents show officials collected computers, cell phone, a hard drive. Vibe magazine feature with Tupac Shakur, multiple bullets, and 2 tubes of photos, and a copy of Dwayne's memoir. So pretty much he spoke himself into this situation here. He's now 60 years old. Chike, what are your thoughts?
I honestly don't have any, not really.
Yeah.
What's really been catching my attention is all the stuff swirling around this arrest. You know, it's alleged that a certain individual who recently made news by doing something monumental with granting artist publishing, and they had to sign an NDA to get the publishing. That was a preemptive move to stop certain people from talking about certain things.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that ties into it, but the rumors are swirling that they're connected. I don't know how true that is, but
Mm-hmm. Linnea, what are your thoughts on this 27 years later?
It just reminds me of like when OJ got out, and I don't know if he wrote it or somebody else, or it was like something implied like, well, if I would have did it.
He wrote it.
If I would have did it.
This is how I would have done it.
My ass down somewhere. Listen, sometimes people talk too much. And you've been talking, and I guess maybe he made an assumption that, I mean, I'm cool, even though you've been talking. Because see, people like to talk.
Yeah.
We know people who like to talk.
Right.
But they have nothing to say. But you know, what you gonna do? Good luck, bro.
We're gonna see how this ends. But I was coming back home Friday night when I was listening to CBS News, and they said that there's a arrest of the Tupac Shakur case. I'm thinking, what? I was like, wow, you know, this family, his stepbrother and some other family, his sister, have all spoken out and said now justice is being served. So we'll see how this pans out.
You know what's interesting? Just real quickly, you know how I found out about this? An elderly Caucasian woman told me.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Well, Gayle King is reacting to supermodel Cindy Crawford slamming Oprah for alleged objectifying in her past interview. So Gayle King is defending her longtime best friend, as we all know, after Oprah Winfrey was recently called out by model Cindy Crawford over an old interview. The broadcaster expressed her frustration about the situation. Now, it seems the drama commenced after fashion icon Cindy Crawford, who's now 57, appeared on Apple TV special condemning the billionaire. In the series titled The Supermodels, well-known models such as Crawford, Naomi Campbell, and Christy Turling sat for interviews reflecting on the ups and downs of their stellar careers. Recalling a moment, she shared the famed media mogul Oprah Winfrey. Crawford reportedly accused the interviewer of objectifying her body by asking her to pose. So in a clip from the 1986 episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show, Oprah asked her to stand up. And she said, now that's a body. That's what you call a body, so she said to the audience. Now Crawford, which reflects on it, she said, I was like a shadow or a child, cattle or a child being seen and not heard. When you look at it through today's eyes, Oprah's like, show us why you're worthy of being here. Watching it back, I was like, oh my gosh, that was not okay. Really? Especially from Oprah. Now, after the clips of Crawford's interview began making their rounds, Winfrey's long-term BFF, Gayle King, was asked about her thoughts on the situation. Now, she admitted she hadn't seen the clip in question, but she did hear about Crawford's claims. And she said, I'm surprised and a little disappointed because I know Cindy's been on her show many, many, many times. And it has always been a pleasant experience. So I would hate to think that something that happened years ago could have bothered her. It's not like Oprah, it's not Oprah's thing to humiliate or make anybody feel badly. As far as I know, everything is good between Oprah and Cindy. Now, Oprah hasn't publicly talked about this, but after this clip went viral, her company took it down off their YouTube channel without mentioning it. So here's some of the feedback I saw in the comments. They're saying, okay, you're a new model on this show, and your job is to show off your body, show off your looks. And so Oprah was asking you, can you stand up and show what you look like? But other people are saying, well, Oprah, she was out of line for doing objectifying this way. Linnea, I'll ask you as the woman, do you think that there's when people are saying, well, you are a model, let's see what you do for a living, or do you think that she has something to stand on looking back at it as a young new model?
I really don't know, because part of me says that you get paid for that.
Right.
That's the thing that you use. That's what you use to become what you become. Of course, we don't know what Oprah's intent was, but you're a model, and she said strike a pose. It's not like she said open up your legs. But I don't know. I feel it is tricky because of how today's times are. But I feel like there should have been a conversation before this, because she had been on her show plenty of times. I think she even like promoted like products she had at one point. So it wasn't a problem when you were promoting your products and whatever your brand was at that time outside of modeling. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe you should have had a conversation. And if you couldn't have that conversation when you were younger because you didn't know how to formulate the words, then you should have had it when you were older, before this thing came out. Because I saw a snippet of it, and I actually want to watch it. Because I love Naomi Campbell. So and I don't it's I don't know.
Yeah. Chicken, what are your thoughts on this?
So I watched the show, and before I watched the show, I read an article about it. And the article to me seemed harsh, very harsh, and very critical of Oprah in that instance, right? So when I watched the show, it was still a little abrasive, and watching Oprah, ask her to stand up and turn around so she can look at her. What made it bad was that Oprah did not address her. She was talking to Casablanca, which was her manager, and she directed everything to Casablanca. It's almost like, if I could equate it to having something that you're trying to sell, have it spin, have it turn, and asking him questions instead of asking her. But the questions were based off of his positioning to her and what he has her doing as far as being one of his models. I get it, but the context was, in the show, all the models are looking back over their lives and critiquing like different things that happened in their lives and how they got to where they are now. And Cindy's having a reflective moment, speaking about something back in the day. Now, I'm gonna jump for a second. I went back in time and I watched the movie Airplane, right? Which was very harsh. And if you watch it today, you'll cringe, because some of the stuff that was in that movie, they could never get away with now.
Right.
So there are going to be a lot of things with the time warp. If you look back at it in another time, it's going to be abrasive and it's going to be harsh because of where we are now. And that show, in that instant, is pretty much what happened. If you look back at it now with the eyes of today and yesterday, you're going to feel offended by it because it is abrasive. I get where Cindy's coming from, and it was something that happened in another time. But I don't think when Oprah did it, she meant any harm.
Well, and also she says, you know, the way that she was objectified and by Oprah. Think about in 1986, Oprah was not Oprah that we know now. She wasn't this leader. She wasn't this
Right. But
spiritual.
I think she was stating because she was a female and she was a woman, basing it off of that.
But when you say Oprah, you're thinking of Oprah, who Oprah is today, what she represents. And Oprah was new in her career, then new into the talk show, you know, with that syndicated talk show. And Cindy was new. And this person was a guest on the show, her manager, and he was promoting her.
That
And she
sounds
was
like
asking about her. Where does she live? She moved to Chicago or something because she wanted to be close to family. She didn't want to go to Paris, but she's gone to Paris. She was originally in school as an engineer. So she talked about these things, and all she said was, and Oprah complimented her on the way she looked. And then she said, "Can you mind standing for us?" So I get it, but I get what you're saying too, Chike. It was a different time. But it wasn't like Chike said, it wasn't like she said, open your legs and turn around, let's see your booty. It wasn't like that. It was more like, let's see you. You know.
And I also think that Oprah has a way of talking, and she doesn't mean any harm by it. She just plainly speaks. And let's remember, Toni Braxton also had issues with Oprah and how she made her feel. So I think it's the way Oprah's delivery is and how she reaches her subject matter sometimes. And if someone is sensitive to that particular subject matter, they're going to feel offended by it.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I wonder if, like, the energy that you put in regards to saying that Oprah made you feel some type of way, what about that agency?
Yeah.
That brought you on to parade you onto her show.
Right.
But again, it was a different time.
It was a different time. It was a different time.
And again, you couldn't have felt that uncomfortable if you kept going back over the 25 years Oprah had the show.
Because you utilized her platform to keep helping to promote you.
If you watch the show, when you watch the show and hear her talk about it, it's not as harsh as the reports that come out in the written text.
Yeah,
it's kind of like something that happened and she got by it. Right. I think the press is making a bigger issue out of it.
That makes sense. And they will do that. We know that. All right, well, check this out. So a deceased woman's family is suing Ohio hospital for allegedly propping up the patient to look alive after a failed routine surgery. According to the new lawsuit, the patient, only publicly identified as a 65-year-old woman, was said to be in good health when she was admitted to an Adena health system. It was supposed to be a routine heart procedure. However, the woman's family said that when she walked into the facility, she never left. And reported to the Satio Valley Guardian, there's this doctor, his name is Betts. He's a cardiologist who has previously faced questions over his credentials. Apparently, he wasn't even supposed to do this procedure because he didn't have the credentials to do so. So they did the procedure, and while the patient was in ICU, they noticed she was bleeding. They called in a second cardiologist to do the procedure, who he's being questioned as well. So apparently this woman, her records say she died at 1 p.m., but the family didn't find out till 3 p.m. 3:05 p.m. when they said she died. They came in, they put her on a ventilator to make it seem like she was alive, and the doctor asked if they wanted them to pull the plug. And they decided to do so, but she had already been dead over 2 hours prior to this. So now the hospital is being investigated on their practices and their procedures and on these two doctors. Can you imagine that being your family member? I'll let you go in there.
My dad has had 2 catheterizations because he's on the transplant list. So I just felt that in my chest.
Yeah.
I would absolutely go batshit crazy on everyone.
Yeah.
Why it's important. How you just spoke earlier, Stephen, about advocating for yourself. advocating for your loved ones when they can't advocate for themselves. I am there for my mom. I'm there for my dad. And I am a pit bull for them too.
Yeah.
Period. And you can't tell me I would be in jail because I'm too emotional over my parents. I would be in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would be in jail.
Yeah.
Hey.
Chicken, what are your thoughts on this?
It's deplorable. And I'm thinking about, you know, I work in the hospital. There are politics in the hospital. There are things that happen that people don't want found out because it could get them in trouble. And so there are things to circumvent certain things from happening. And as you were talking, the thing that comes to my mind is, wow, so many things, but the word fraud kept popping up.
Oh, yeah.
And don't we have somebody that's in court now for fraud, about to go get some money taken away or possibly go to jail for fraud, something like that, whatever. But this is beyond that, because this is a life that is now lost due to negligence, malpractice, and then you're going to put fraud on top of that. All that land that hospital's on needs to go to that family. All of that. All that square footage, give it to the family. Because no one that knew anything about this deserves to have a license to practice medicine. None of the nurses, none of the CNAs, none of the CRNAs, none of the anesthesiologists, nobody. Nobody with letters after their name deserved to have them if they were affiliated with this. It's deplorable.
It is. And apparently there are other patients and former patients and families that are banding together to raise awareness to this and get justice. But I also remember the family, the woman, she was pregnant with her child, and they did a cesarean section on her, but they were too rough on how they pulled the baby out. Took off the baby's head, and they propped the head back on the baby to make it seem like the baby just died.
They gave them the baby with the head propped on.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine.
Yep.
I could not imagine going, ooh.
All I gotta say is Tasmanian devil.
Yeah, pretty much.
That story was crazy.
All right, well, our last story. So fresh out of the scene from the 2012 film Flight, a British Airways pilot faced a suspension and eventually termination due to his involvement in a recent incident, a reported incident, involving alcohol and cocaine used the night prior to the flight to London. And he had the audacity to text the details of his wild night to a flight attendant that he worked with. So Fox News reports that Mike Benton, a pilot employed by British Airways, took advantage of a night off following a flight to Johannesburg last month. During this time, he reportedly consumed excessive amounts of alcohol and even admitted to snorting cocaine off the chest of a topless woman, despite having to return flight to London the next day. Per the reports, the married father of one excitedly shared the extracurricular activities with a fellow crew member before he returned flight to London. And in their exchange, the text messages, he acknowledged that he had been involved in some bad behavior by referring to himself as a very naughty boy. So apparently he met these two women. They end up in someone's room. He loses his shirt. They had been drinking, and they were trying to determine who had the best chest for him to do the cocaine off of, to determine who. So he texts all this to his coworker. The coworker tells the bosses. And so they pull him to the side. They test him for cocaine. They suspended him, then tested for cocaine, came back positive. And so the flight was delayed 12 hours for the passengers that were involved, and he had to pay a $120,000 fee. But yeah, he tested positive. So the disgusted British Airways captain spoke to Mail Online about the pilot's antics. Said, talking to pilot colleagues, we feel hugely let down by this individual. They said all of a sudden, bad behavior that goes a down route between flights and incidents is hard to believe. A first officer is trained rigorously and knows the law inside out. Their remit is protecting the safety of passengers. This behavior was opposite of what is expected from British Airways pilots. The airline is in shock. This pilot has hoisted himself by his own petard. The idea of sending details of his drink and drug sessions to a stewardess between flights is extraordinarily dumb. Furious managers followed protocol, and the pilot was drug tested in his return on his return flight to UK. The alcohol would not have been found in the system, but the Class A drug was. He will never fly again. Does this concern you when you think about it? Because, you know, Flight was a great movie Denzel Washington was in. And although in the movie, he did save a lot of people high on cocaine and alcohol, but that was a movie. When we're in the air and you're dealing with turbulence and everything else, we want our pilots to be sober. Chicken, what are your thoughts?
So say he didn't do any of the texting. He would have gotten on that plane and did his job under the influence.
Mm-hmm.
And lives would have been in the palm of his hand, right?
Yeah.
I think about flight attendants the same way I think about police officers. You have a deadly weapon on your hip at all times. The public is your responsibility.
Yep.
If you're high or under the influence doing your job, you're putting people at jeopardy.
Mm.
And I'm going back to the point where the government bailed out the airlines for $50 billion.
Wow.
Why? And this is the behavior. So, and I'm also connecting it to cops. When cops get fired off of a force because they did something wrong, they just move to another state and apply for another precinct again, and they get hired. I wonder if pilots can do the same thing.
Yeah.
My thing is you need to be barred for life.
Yeah.
And go to jail.
Yep. I saw another story, Linnea, where this pilot, he got through security, you know, the TSA security, got through there. Then he saw some other security and he wrapped back around, said he forgot something in the pilot's kitchen or whatever. Mm-hmm. Luckily, the camera was following him. He had gone to a bathroom. He had alcohol on him. He took the alcohol to his head and then went back to go on the flight. Because the camera was surveilling him, they went in the bathroom and saw
him too, Steven. Somebody was following him as
well.
Him
too, yeah. Mm-hmm. And they saw the bottle, and he wasn't able to fly. I mean, Linnea, what are your thoughts when you hear about this?
How do you regulate that?
Yeah.
How do you regulate that? Because let's keep it all the way funky, like Chike said. Had he not sent that text, we don't know what these pilots did.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend and I were talking. It's so interesting how we put ourselves in positions to trust people that we don't know every day.
Yeah.
Every day. And so for whether it's going to a restaurant, whether it's getting on an airplane, we don't know these people. They don't know. They don't have a personal relationship with us. And we're supposed to trust that they have our best interest, you know, when they're feeding us, when they're flying us, when they're driving us. You know, that goes for when you're getting in a Lyft or Uber. So
I saw a TikTok where a person got on the plane, and you know how they stand in the front and they greet you when you come on. The person asked the captain, "Were you drinking today? Are you under the influence?" They kicked that person off, and they weren't allowed to fly. Wow. Because I pay my money, I can't question you. Where you and your homies could possibly be having parties, getting all liquored up and high up, and then you want to fly me across the country, and I can't ask you if you had a drink or if you're high, but you can
Wow.
fly me under the influence.
That's wild. That's
How
wild.
about they get pulled over?
Yeah. Well, we'll leave it there. Y'all stay safe, advocate for your own health, and be careful who you are putting your trust in. Lanier, you stick with us for movie reviews, and I'll see you both right back after this.